hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
We are up. We are live. We are ready to go. It is Monday night, and it is time to kick things off from the week that was here on Around the UFL. Zach Hyman in here, as always, hosting this week, kicking off with a panel of 5 sitting next to me on the screen. And man, talk about some things that are making the league topsy-turvy as the standings are looking nuts. 4-4-2 teams on the top going in to this coming week. It is going to be bonkers, unlike last year, to see what the playoff scenario looks like. 2-3-3 teams as well, sitting there nipping at the heels of those teams too in both conferences. We are active right now in the playoff discussion, even more so coming into this week, because it's going to get crazy, it seems, with how good the talent is. Before I keep going into my rantiness, I got to go around the horn, ladies and gentlemen, to all the folks on here, and welcome all of you, by the way, as well, to our latest edition of our Monday Night Fun hour or so that we do on Around the UFL. To the right side of me on the screen, I've got the insider extraordinaire, the man who is going everywhere and anywhere in the U.S. right now, doing the UFL World Tour. It is James Larson, once again visiting and seeing some magic in stadium this week over in Michigan, although a little more closer to home for you. So you have to kind of sit back, relax, and watch the fireworks of what is the talk of the town in Price Perkins.
My goodness, yeah, no, I mean, well, for one, it was nice to just have a 35-minute drive as opposed to 9 to 12 hours like I have the last couple of weeks. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun this weekend, and obviously just so excited about how this league is shaping up, because last year, this time after week 6, we were like, oh man, like, the games were still exciting, there were still playoff picks to be decided, but it felt like we knew what was going to happen. The trends were kind of trending. Right now, there's so many moving pieces. Teams are moving up and down every single game, every single week, so it's like it's hard to predict what the hell is going to happen down the stretch here, because I mean, outside of San Antonio and Memphis, it's anybody's game.
It really kind of feels like it. I mean, we, like I said, we've got such a different vibe this year, and I'll kick it over to my my friend Nick Thorne on the opposite side, which, you know, like I said, I know a little different outcome on the flip side for the defenders this week on that regard, but I mean, it's getting dicey in at least a much better way if you're a general football fan of the UFL.
Yeah, I think the parity this year is so much greater. Part of that is because, like, last year we had like a clear separation where like the bad teams were really bad and the good teams were very good. And this year it's muddled up a little bit more, which makes for more enjoyable games at this point. You know, literally everyone's still in the hunt technically. Obviously, I know Memphis and San Antonio probably aren't going to, you know, win out and, you know, sneak into the playoffs, but you know, the fact that no one's been clinched or eliminated 6 weeks in kind of goes to show that, like, hey, everything's really tight. And obviously when it comes to DC, you know, tough loss. I'm not as panicked as some people are about it. I think it's just more to go to show that, as we go into these final 4 weeks, I think Michigan's the real deal. And if I don't have another opportunity to say it, Bryce Perkins is special, and he's going to be someone that we talk about in a couple of years from now as like, hey, PJ Walker, Alex Magoo, those like, top tier players that, the spring football community has seen. I think he's going to end up being up there in that pantheon.
I love you jumping right in. And I mean, Bryce is going to be talked, I feel like, a ton on this broadcast. Cause I mean, we've been, there's some awesome talents we've been getting to watch, but like, it feels like we've been waiting for that. Like, who's the guy that the casual fan's going to have break through and you're going to see everybody talk about and like get the Twitter trends and whatnot. And this was the week. And, I'll spin it right around here. Not only a good week for Panthers fans or even the UFL getting some star, but, a good week for me here, Ref. The law keeps getting broken. Laws were meant to be broken, they say. So,
I'm on board with this. Trust me. I love when both of our teams win. Still, 2 weeks from now, well, not now, but 2 weeks, 2 more weeks is refs law the game. Now, you know what's crazy, Zach? We are part 1. You're right. And we're going to end it with part 2. And you know what's crazy is we're ramping up here. There is a reality where we have refs law, the USFL championship game, going to decide who goes to the UFL championship. It might seem crazy. The Roughnecks are 1 game away. And I mean, Jace isn't here yet, so I could say it. And I'm leaving before he comes on because it's my anniversary. So
yeah.
All we need is that 1-2 punch. 1-2. And you know what's coming up this weekend? Punch 1 with the Stallions. Week after that, punch 2 to the Panthers. And you know where that puts us, Zachy boy? Right at the top of the pack. Right at the top of that, looking down at everybody else saying, wow, look at all those teams. They look so small from us, from up here. That's going to be us 2 short weeks from now. And I'll say it. If somehow, some way, the Roughnecks don't beat the Stallions this weekend, because I'm guaranteeing it, but if they don't beat the Stallions this weekend, I'll buy a Jace Sternberger jersey. I'll make it happen.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not gonna. I'm saving my money. There is going to be no money leaving my wallet. I'll tell you that much. But he did have a nice touchdown pass. Relay that one. Sign him up.
Touchdown pass.
Reception, whatever.
That's what he meant
What
to
is
say.
he taking a play out of Alex Magoo's playbook? Wide receiver 1?
Every quarterback's a receiver if you think hard enough. That's what he's trying to do. Jake, this would be a great time to kick things into gear with this talk. But watch the Panthers get the spotlight. Bryce breaking out. Finally, it's almost like waiting 6 weeks and seeing what everyone on this panel was seeing. Man, it feels good to just be like, you know what? We know who gets to play. There's no funny business now. There's nothing. This is the final bit of funny business. It was killed in press conference a week prior. We now know, like everybody else knew. It just seems like now certain people in Michigan have caught up somehow.
You're
muted, buddy.
He pulled it.
Yeah.
There we go. Pull the James. Yeah, no, I'm excited for seeing that everybody finally gets to see what I expected to see once we finally gave Bryce the keys. But remind Ref here that the last time that Michigan had the do or die for the playoffs at Ford Field in Week 10 did not work out so well for the Stars. So I wouldn't be hoping for that if I were you.
Well, it's not going to be do or die for us. We'll have it clinched by then. So I'm not too worried about it. If anything, it's just going to be a preview into who we're going to be playing the next week at best, if you're lucky.
Yeah, we've been hearing this for 4 years, though. 3.5.
You're going to be feeling it this one. This is the year. This is our year. This is our year. Nobody believed it.
2 wins in a row. And
just wait for this road trip, Zachy boy.
Man's
You
on a
thought
heater.
Summer stock road trip. That's going to be a great idea. I'm telling you, we're going to get the CJ Johnson AI audio book. We're going to get we're going to find a book and we're going to get it. And CJ's going to read it to us. All the rituals, Zach, you better hope the Roughnecks don't get this 1-2 punch like I'm guarantee.
He's laying down a guarantee.
I was trying to find a way to wedge the word ref into that, but there's. How about Staffarantee? I'll Staffarantee it.
You're command centering it? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
I'm certifying it via the command center, people.
Verizon Command Center, by the way.
Verizon Command Center. Thank you. League sponsorship.
Got to get that in there.
What I will say is that the Roughnecks do have a little bit of something up their sleeve with everybody in PFN. Well, not everybody, but the consensus, pick on our power rankings, putting Michigan number 1, has not boded well for the previous number 1s this year. Every week since week 1, our number 1 has lost the subsequent week. So, hoping that we see that broken, but there is certainly the in for the Roughnecks if that continues.
Because I won't be here for the full power rankings talk. Everybody here that ranked the Renegades above the Roughnecks should be ashamed of themselves. The Roughnecks should be number 3. They should be number 3.
I see Nick over there. Good for you, buddy.
I'll say. And maybe next week is the week. You all see what I've been saying all year is actually coming to fruition. It's coming to reality. It's coming to jump out in front of you in the middle of the night and scare you like, bah! That's us right now, the Roughnecks, roughing them up.
Well, I feel like on that note, I mean, we should definitely talk a bit about that Roughnecks Showboats game from this past weekend. Another 1-point loss for the Showboats. It's a tough one for Memphis because it felt like they really had control in that. This is two, almost identical, where they had control of that game. They had the football, and then they have back-to-back turnovers. Houston capitalizes, gets points off of them, and that's that, and Memphis can't come back. It's actually kind of crazy how similar both of those were, where it's a little bit different this time around because that fumble 6 I wouldn't say is on Dresser win. That's an offensive line thing. I don't think it's time for the Showboats fans to panic about Dresser. I know he had a couple bad turnovers in that third quarter, but these are his first pro starts. He still needs some time to develop. I do kind of I think Noel Mazzone's really developed a good offense for him, a good system. So, there's some concerning moments there for Memphis, but look, the season's basically over anyway. I would say stick with Dresser the rest of the way, let him continue to develop, and see if he can be your guy next season. Houston, on the other hand, though, I mean, that was a hell of a second half defensively, and they continue to shine down the stretch in these games. We saw against San Antonio, and I saw against Memphis. Chris Wilson's secondary is playing at another level right now.
Yeah, when it comes to Houston, I think their defense gets them into the conversation, right? Now suddenly they're frisky. They can win these games against, last year they're not winning this game against Memphis. Now they are in the conversation, but when, ref talks about going from, hey, we can win games to we are the best team in the USFL or contending for the playoffs against two, teams that have, historically been pretty good franchises, all things considered. I think it comes down to two things. It comes down to offensive line play and quarterback play. Those two things right now I'm not certain about. I think Jalen McClendon has played well. I'm still waiting for a little bit of it factor. I think when you watch a Bryce Perkins or Jordan Teamu, you see that where hey, when the play needs to be made, he makes the play. I haven't seen that consistently from Jalen McClendon.
Well, Teamu does it 47% of the time, so.
It's 50%.
The erraticness of this man kills me because it is either boom or bust to the living definition.
The point
and that just proves though that you could be a top tier team with a mid-tier quarterback, and we don't
Thorne's
have one.
never going to get his point across.
Sorry,
we saw what happened with EJ and
Let's let Nick finish his point. I'm sorry.
When it comes to Teamu, yes, the down-to-down consistency is absolutely concerned. That's why the completion percentage is lower. That's why he's not necessarily putting up that MVP 2023 level season. But to give him credit, and why I think it's ridiculous that DC fans are oh, we need to bench him, whatever. You look at all their wins and even their losses outside of this week, he has kept them in the game, and he's made the play when it needs to be made. When they need a touchdown, he gets it. And that kind of like, killer instinct a little bit of like, hey, he's going to take the shot. And yeah, it's not always going to hit, especially early in the game. But he has that like, hey, I'm going to go down and win the game, that kind of clutch factor, which is kind of hard to determine at times. But like you see this great NFL quarterbacks, and obviously, the consistency is not there. There's a reason why he's not an NFL quarterback. But he has that, and the whole point getting kind of back and reeling that in is to say, like, I need to see a little bit more of that from Jalen McClendon. I think this is a great opportunity against Birmingham. Right now, quarterback issues, we'll see kind of what that looks like. Maybe they're bringing in Jalen Morton because, Andrew Peasley's now like QB3 to go on IR. We'll see on all that, but I just need to see a little bit more from him, because not every game are you going to get a 7-point swing where, their defense is going to get a strip sack, fumble, recovery, touchdown. That's not going to happen every week. And we've seen even the great defenses like the Pittsburgh Maulers, like you kind of need some offense too. You need to have a quarterback that you don't necessarily need like best offense in the league, but you need something that's like, hey, we're going to put 21 points on the board by ourselves. We don't need the defense to, score points, because that's just not a consistent way to win long term. So definitely strides in the right direction. They're a team that's right now frisky, which is fun. Now, like last year, if they played Birmingham, we'd be like, no shot. Now it's like, they've got an opportunity to really, come in and knock them off. So we'll see, but definitely in an interesting spot, and we'll kind of see what it looks like here in the next week or two against some better competition.
Without a doubt. I mean, look, you can definitely slay a dragon next week if you knock off Birmingham. And quite frankly, the discussion will be very interesting. Honestly, the chat, I like the poll question. Can the Roughnecks make the playoffs? Out of 21 votes, right now it's pretty even split. 52% say they can make the playoffs, which, look, I think when you have a guy like McClendon, who to me is like a Reed Sinnett, but with a slightly higher ceiling than Reed Sinnett with what I've seen so far, and the defense has been turning up a lot better as of late as well, that's going to come down to, your opportunity right now. I haven't seen a crazy amount yet of Birmingham kind of polishing things up. It still feels like they're trying to find kind of to limiting and negating mental errors or some miscues on running their offense correctly. They have a great defense. That's the thing. So I think there's a lot of optimism because, the opportunity is clearly there. To be fair on our end, Jake, with you and me, Jake, Michigan still has to slay that dragon as well, because Birmingham's coming up later in the year. It's going to be a fun conference now with three teams that, it feels like, can they get over past, I would say past out coachings of Skip Holtz and company. But, that defense does win championships. Do you have what Nick's saying? Can you find something that gets you, I would say, a clear vision? And you're also able to be, I think, clutch is what we're looking for if you're going to play a team like Birmingham that knows that spot very well.
And I think that next Birmingham-Houston game, which I'm sure we'll cover a little bit later, but that's going to be such a key matchup for both those teams. I'd say whoever wins that Week 7 game is going to have – they're probably making the playoffs. Whoever loses, if Houston drops to 3-4, it's going to be tough. If they beat Birmingham and go to 4-3, and the Stallions and Roughnecks have a split head-to-head throughout the season, with the way Birmingham's been trending, like you said, the quarterback position has been shaky, and it's not entirely Birmingham's fault. I did put out a piece this morning. Yeah. The quarterback injuries have been insane. You lose Alex McGough. Now Matt Corral's on IR. He's done for the season. Case Cookis is out there. He's playing on one leg. Andrew Peasley looks like he could have potentially just torn his ACL or had something happen to him on that drive. And who else are you bringing in? We legitimately could see Jamar Smith snaps in 2025, which is kind of crazy to think. So how that'll all play out, we'll have to see. But the Stallions, luckily for them, they played the Brahmas this week. And that's all I'm going to say. Luckily for them, they had San Antonio. Because if they had anybody else, they would have lost that game.
I don't think I'm disagreeing with you there, honestly.
I thought Jontre Kirkland dropped. Goodness gracious.
The Jontre Kirkland drop-off this year has been astronomical. It is, unfortunately, quite the sight to see, and I really hate it because the kid is really talented.
He did create one of the best memes of the weekend by sitting in the chair after that. But
I think that's what the entire Brahmas organization needs to do at this point is just sit down.
At the end of the half, though, Kevin Hogan can we just take a moment to I will give him his props, because the dude took the ball from one end of the field to the other in 20 seconds, less than 20 seconds. I thought, okay, holy smokes, this team might come out in the second half and make this a game. It just didn't happen. I think they might have caught Birmingham off guard. I think they were maybe taking it easy, said these guys aren't going to go. They're maybe going to run the ball a couple times. They're not going to want to give it away. And then next thing you know, 2 passes later, you're at the end zone. If they had 5 more seconds, they might have been able to convert that into a touchdown, to where when you look at that, and then John Trey Kirkland, the momentum of the game changes dramatically at that point. Going into the half, right?
They desperately needed more than the passing. Their ground game. I mean, Birmingham has been on lock for a few years now, but they couldn't get anything going. I mean, we're looking at an average combined of 1.8 yard a carry, and at best, Anthony McFarland got only 2 clips out of the day. I mean, it's just how the game played out. But also, like early in the game when you can't find anything going, I don't look at Kevin Hogan as a guy right now that is going to just will the people to a victory here. So you needed that run game.
Hogan would be a good game manager for them if they had an offensive line that could actually play consistent ball. And that's been the biggest issue for San Antonio, is the constant pressure. And I don't want to put all the blame on Kellen Mond, because I think Kellen could still put up some decent numbers with an offensive line that could actually properly protect him. But Birmingham's defensive line just completely dominated from snap one. Ronnie Perkins coming back was huge for them. He's one of their team captains. He was definitely missed a week ago. Having him in there, Bradley and I was making plays, Jace Sanders. The amount of balls batted at the line, too, like, that was another thing that, like, anytime San Antonio was getting something going, Jake, I'm sure you might have had flashbacks to Josh Love with the Panthers a couple of years ago with all the batted balls at the line. Like, it was insane. It felt like every other throw from Hogan was getting hit down by either Carlos Davis or Perron Winfrey or Jace Sanders or somebody there on the defensive line. It's just the problem is, they want to run the football. Like, that's kind of been, it's so much different than the Brahmas that we knew from last year, right? With AJ Smith wanting to pass. Now you're trying to run the ball, but you can't block, so you can't do either. And then it's just they're gonna need a complete overhaul this offseason. I don't know what direction they have to take, but they need to go somewhere.
I don't think they're necessarily at the point where they need an overhaul. Definitely defensively, I think they need to rethink some things. Offensively, I just view it as like, hey, they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole right now. They had a schematic, that kind of air raidy AJ Smith offense, and that's how they built out their team. And then halfway through the season, they're like, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to be ground and pound. We're going to use more tight ends and be more physical. And you just don't really have the pieces to have success with that long term, especially with Anthony McFarland out. That was kind of your best offensive weapon, and now he's, we'll see how long he's out for. He's someone who just has struggled to stay on the field since coming into the UFL. I think for them, like, finding the right quarterback and then, like, fine-tuning a few pieces receiving-wise would really, get a lot of it. Because right now, they need someone who's mobile, who can kind of make up for, the weak points in this offensive line. Because we've seen it time and time again in this league, like in Alex Magoo years ago with the Stallions, now Bryce Perkins. If you can move, it kind of makes all those little issues go away. And right now, Kevin Hogan, because he can't really move, and Arlington too with Luis Perez, every issue that they have is just exacerbated because the quarterback can't create after the play and do the magic, with running the ball.
So you're saying he just needs to learn how to get a little frisky?
All right.
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe, no, because, like, Houston's already frisky enough. So we're good on that front.
I saw David in the chat put, what are the chances that Wade just stays home and he might be better off? It's a mess. I mean, who knows if he'll return? I feel like at this point, it doesn't make much sense for him to come back, especially if he's still trying to get his health back on track. It's like, this season's basically over already. I don't see a path for them to make the playoffs with St. Louis and DC at 4-2, and Arlington at 3-3, and all those teams already have wins over San Antonio except for DC, but Defenders will get revenge this week for sure. It's a shame that he had to go when he did. And look, I love Peyton Pardee. I think he's a great coach. I think he's been thrown into a really tough scenario, so it's hard to exactly judge, how things would play out for him in a different scenario. But, like, my goodness, like, 6 points over 2 games, you've just been completely outplayed and outcoached in every single facet of the game. And it's not like, Birmingham, they're a good football team, but it's like you can score more than 3 points against Birmingham. I mean, granted, you got the John Kirkland drop, you just have some issues and some errors, but it's just the lackluster football. Like, the body language says it all. Like, you can tell these guys are just kind of they're down and out. Like, there's no energy, none.
Well, I'll bring up a super chat that I've been wanting to find a good time to bring up because it started at the beginning of the show. Lucian Medina, I can't pull him up on here with the system we have, but Brahmas and Showboats possibly face elimination this weekend, depending on certain situations that would play out. So, I mean, it's like again, different than last year where we're talking like already about playoffs and we're just kind of sitting on that. But, it depends. I mean, how much do you got in you? I don't think San Antonio looks like they have much in the tank right now. So my confidence ain't there. Even though I know we just saw them beat this DC team 2 weeks ago, I just don't feel confident about them going and doing it again.
I mean, they could play spoiler, though. They have that in them. Some teams, if you're not really going to make it, some teams just want to play spoiler. I mean, they have their second games against Arlington, D.C., and St. Louis ahead of them. So that game there could turn the tide for any one of those 3 teams. So, San Antonio at least has that motivation to go for them. Whether that does anything, is to be seen.
Lucian in the chat, Arlington and DC somehow lose out, San Antonio wins out. That's not possible because Arlington and DC play each other again, so one of those teams is getting at least one more win on the year. So it's basically over for San Antonio at this point.
Yeah. Afraid so.
How about St. Louis Arlington? I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later with our power rankings, but that was
an interesting game. Yeah.
Friday night curse.
One of the games I've ever watched.
It's either you're going to get crazy fourth quarter action on a Friday night game, or you're going to get something like this. It just feels like it. And I don't know. It doesn't matter what teams you put in there. It just feels like maybe I don't know what it is, but I don't know, because Arlington is one of those teams though. Week by week, every time I'm sold, they come in and have a game like this. I'm like, which one is it going to be? Battlehawks. I think they're down. They come back. I don't know. I do have to jump, though, fellas. So do this for me.
Which is sad, because Justin Hall's about to join within the next minute or two.
I'm getting looks. I got to go. All right.
All right.
Give him my best.
You're getting look. No, go see. Tell Lisa we said hi.
All right. Sign everybody up. You guys, look. 1-2 punch. That's all. I'll end it with that. And, tell Jace. Guaranteed that we're winning next weekend. And now I'm out of here because I don't want to hear it from him. See ya.
No, we won't. The way he goes.
Happy anniversary, Stefan.
Yeah, good for him, man. No, you gotta go do that. Gotta go do that.
Zach, your camera just went out of focus.
I know it's not liking what I'm doing right now.
Goodness gracious.
That was ugly. Still not liking what I'm doing. Not sure what's up there. Maybe it's wanting me to go into the fog that is the uncertainty of playoff discussion right now. This could be it.
We kind of circle back to Battlehawks Renegades. That Renegades offensive line has been problematic. And this is the downfall for Arlington, where if you can't block for Perez, you can't win football games. And that's just what it is with Luis being a pocket passer. And he's not mobile. And look, yes, he can occasionally get out of the pocket and make something happen, but he's not Jordan Tiamu. He's not Bryce Perkins. He's not Alex Magoo. And we're seeing teams now really putting pressure on them. And Arlington, which Thorne, I'm sure you kind of were pointing this out too during the game, is you have Jacob Johannan go down, so he was out with injury. Matt Farniak comes in and plays center, and that whole unit was just from kind of top to bottom disorganized the entire day. Travis Feeney, Peter Tomapenu, that whole front seven was getting action, even without Austin Fialu, who's arguably the best DT in the UFL right now, playing at all UFL level. He was out. Isaiah Mack came in. I thought he played a great game. Phil Hoskins had a couple nice plays, and that St. Louis defensive front was just overwhelming, really from start to finish. And Peter Tomapenu with the game-winning fumble. Renegades 3-3. I agree with Ref, to be honest. I think Houston's trending in a much better direction. I think Houston would win that game right now if they played again. I also think that the Roughnecks would have won Week 2 had Jalen McClendon been the starting quarterback over Anthony Brown.
Yeah, I got a visitor. I definitely agree with the the talk about Arlington. I think that offensive line is just you lost two very core pieces. I think three very core pieces to that offensive line last year.
Mm-hmm.
You had Bobby Evans, you had Drew Sama, and you had Jake Lucina. You lose those three, and that takes it from one of the best offensive lines in the league, and it's like, oh well, now you got to figure out 60% of your offensive line, and it just hasn't quite happened. And that goes to the Luis Perez not being mobile enough to make up for those lacks. I will shout out Isaiah Mack, like you said. He's someone that I was very high on coming into this league. I was kind of surprised that St. Louis wasn't using him more frequently. He was a very good player for the Ravens, like in the regular season. So he's someone that late season push kind of guy. I could see him making some noise going forward and not just this being like a one game wonder situation. But as far as Arlington goes, they also lost Kalen Balaj. We'll see if he's hurt long term. I don't know if James, you've heard anything about that yet or not. But he's someone I'm watching today. Is he getting put on IR? Because if he is, then that changes your outlook. I like Day Hunter, but that was a big part of your offense too. So
Yeah.
I agree. I still, I think when it comes to Arlington, their defense is still very good, as you saw. Gave Max Duggan a ton of fits, and which is the St. Louis offense just lit up Michigan last week. So credit where credit's due. That defense is still very good, one of the best in the league. But offensively, it's like is it time to look at Holton Ahlers? I'm sure someone in the chat's very happy about me saying that, but it's just like, it's not necessarily even a Luis Perez problem. It's like hey, we need a guy who's going to make this offense go. And right now, I just don't think that Luis Perez can do that consistently. Some weeks they're going to be able to block up, and like last week against DC, they can put up 30 points, but that's not every week. You're going to run into fronts consistently here on the back stretch of this season where they're going to ruin your game plan.
Yeah. And we saw some of those cracks last week, and we'll table that discussion. James, we'll kick it off as we got a visitor.
Finally in the house, Justin. I'm sorry for those complications trying to get you in. Justin, how's it going, brother? Thanks for joining us today.
No problem. How y'all doing today?
We're doing well.
Great.
Doing well. I'm sure you're doing well over there. 2 straight wins, man. Good vibes over there in Houston, I take it.
Definitely feeling good.
Yeah, what's kind of the energy and the vibe right now in Houston? A couple wins. You're up to the 500 mark for the first time since you guys were with the Gamblers 2 seasons ago. What's kind of the energy and the vibe and just the overall, kind of attitude here in Houston over these last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, we always knew as a team, as a group, that we could play way better than we've been performing. Coach been saying that a lot too. Basically, we just held each other accountable, and it looks like we're clicking a lot right now. We're actually playing as a team. Guys, just working hard, playing hard for their brothers next to them. So, I just think that's what's kind of been going on. That's kind of been the difference.
You guys have seen Jalen McClendon really emerge over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, he's stepping in for an injured Nolan Henderson. Having him step in and play at the high level that he's been playing, what's that really meant to your offense, and how have you been able to kind of build chemistry with him as he was QB3 for most of camp and the season up until he had to come in with injury?
Well, I'm cool with all the quarterbacks. CJ kind of like last year, we had a lot of quarterback injuries last year early on in the season, and we kind of had to rotate all three. I always get in the habit of basically throwing with all the cues, get extra throws after practice, stuff like that, to get that chemistry, things like that. And Jalen's been doing an awesome job, just jumping in and being able to be the general of the offense like that. So I definitely hats off for him for sure.
You guys are coming off 2 big wins in a row. Coming off another 1-point win over Memphis. What is it about these games against the Showboats where you guys have just been able to just squeeze out a win with 1 point in both affairs?
Man, I know, right? Obviously that's a great team that we just played. But I think we left a lot of plays out there. We could have executed a lot more plays. We should have put more points up on offense. it just always ends up being a shootout with the showboats. I don't know how that happens, but I mean, I love the. It's almost like our rivalry game because like. I don't know if back in the USFL, we both. I stayed in Memphis and we used to have to practice, share facilities, stuff like that. So I don't know. It's kind of I always kind of have a chip on my shoulder when I play those guys. So
Yeah, I mean every game with whether it was when you were with the Gamblers or with the Roughnecks, every game with Memphis always comes down to the wire. It feels like over these last few years. I'm gonna pass the mic over to Nick Thorne. We got a few panelists here. Nick, you had a few questions for Justin, so go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, appreciate you doing this. So I love asking these like spring football veterans kind of what's their perspective on their careers and kind of what are you looking to get out of it? You know, is this something where it's like, hey, I just want to keep playing football for as long as I can? Is it, hey, this is one last shot to go to the NFL? I'm curious, you know, going into year 3, you've had some success, you've gotten some NFL opportunities out of playing in this league. Kind of where's your mentality, you know, big picture right now?
So I'm definitely right now I'm just trying to get as much wins, basically go to the championship right now. But of course, you know, I definitely have bigger goals. Trying to definitely go back, definitely have dreams of going back to NFL, stuff like that. So that's definitely on my list. You know, yeah, that's all. That should be on everyone's kind of list on every team, in my opinion. But you know, some guys, you know, do it for different reasons. That's my reason.
Cool. Yeah. And the other question I wanted to ask you is about your head coach, CJ Johnson. You know, he has this like crazy pedigree when it comes to coaching wide receivers. You know, Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Marcus Colston, Alshon Jeffrey, Mike Thomas. The list just goes on and on. And I'm kind of curious, is that something that you guys feel in the receiver room, or is it kind of just, okay, CJ's focused on the team as a whole and, you know, we have our room? Or is that something that like, hey, is he someone you go to? I'm just kind of curious what that dynamic is.
Well, as wideouts, we all meet with CJ. He's kind of like our receiver coach, but technically we don't have a receiver coach. Our receiver coach is the head coach. So, I mean, that's kind of clutch. Like, and you know, CJ, you know, like you say, he coached all those good guys, so he has so much wisdom. So whenever he speaks, I'm kind of like a sponge. I just soak up all the knowledge I can from him, stuff like that. So, definitely a great coach.
Cool.
I'm going to pass the mic over to Zach. Zach, you're a fellow Ball State grad, so
Yes,
take it away.
Yes, I am, and I gotta. Yeah, I'm glad you went right in with that because I gotta do the same thing right here while we're on here. Look, I got to watch you for a few years during my college tenure. Obviously, helped lead the school to its only bowl win in its history. I'm gonna ask. This may sound silly, but can you tell people what the Harvard of Muncie is like, because that's that's like almost like a Ball State kind of connection, if you will.
Yeah. So you want me to just tell you about
just how's Muncie? You know, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
So Muncie's a pretty small, you know, pretty cool small town. Everyone knows everyone. It's a good place to go to college. It's not too much around, so you can't get in that much trouble unless you really, really try to. So, I mean, I love Muncie, you know what I'm saying? It was quiet. It was cold. Just chill, just overall chill vibes. I miss Muncie every once in a while, but not the cold.
Well, yeah, now the cold. I mean, you're probably doing okay where you're at, obviously down in Texas. So, you know, I'll take that. Look, I got a list of a few more accolades. You were a star in the MAC, 2-time All MAC receiver as well. I mean, you lit it up. When I saw your name come up as a UFL player or USFL player before this, I've been ecstatic ever since. You know, you probably would speak on this a bit more. I mean, the smaller schools, the lower 6. I mean, this league's perfect for those type of players, I think, right? Just like it just feels like that has always been, especially guys like you, it just feels like that is the perfect spot for them to go if you're wanting to, you know, not even just keep playing. You know, you've been in here for a few years now, but you know, I think it's becoming more and more a great avenue to kind of get real time tape with actual people that, you know, have either been in this or that are talents that, you know, are with coaches that want to get up to this.
Right. No, I mean, I totally agree. Like you said, we have a lot of people. It's not like the UFL because think about it. Most of the guys in this league, came from the NFL roster. I mean, if that's last year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but they all, made it, was on the team. So I'm about to say it's always definitely some hidden gems, hidden talent, definitely in UFL. So I mean, I love the competition. So keep them coming.
Kind of speaking of that competition, Justin, you've had to play a lot of elite defenses this season. I mean, the defenses in the UFL this year are probably the best defenses that we've seen in spring football ever. What might be a tough matchup or two that you've had against some defensive backs this year? Is there anyone in particular, or any of these teams that you're like, damn, like it's hard to get open on these guys, or do you just get open on everybody?
Depending on the concepts, depending on the concept and the plays, I know. I'm trying to think back. I want to say St. Louis was pretty tough, but I mean, I just ran a zone. I mean, a couple quarters and stuff like that. 3. I mean, most teams we've been playing haven't really played us. Came out and played us just straight, man. A lot. They've been playing like this zone where they basically keep everything in front, make the quarterback make perfect plays every time. I mean, which is cool. We'll take what they give us, but yeah, but so that's defense. That's kind of like defense. But see, I want to say any particular team that we play, like, dang, that defense is hard. I would say that every team. I mean, like you said, every defense on every team is pretty good, pretty skilled. I mean, they'll probably have certain position that we kind of feel like we can exploit. Like maybe they have a linebacker that's pretty slow. Okay, well, let's run a couple of option routes on him. Stuff like that. So, yeah.
I want to pass the mic over to Jake, our Michigan Panthers fan, because he lost one of his favorite players that's now one of your teammates this year.
Yeah,
Sims, huh?
Yeah, well, what else is gonna be my second question, but I'll start with it. So how was how you guys taking care of my guy? Because he he had been one of my favorite guys for a while, so I hope you guys are taking good care of him over there.
Oh yeah. We take good care of Marcus. I think he loves being over here. We took him in open arms. Marcus pretty cool. Doesn't talk too much. When we do talk, he says what he needs to say. He's a pretty cool dude though, for sure. We love him on our team. We'll tell you, so.
And hopefully he gets healthy again and can ball out for you guys for the rest of the week. Hopefully not next weekend, week 10, but we'll see. I know how previous Panthers have come back to bite us after they've been released or traded, namely 2023's championship game. So hopefully that doesn't come to pass, but I hope that he kills it for you guys coming down the stretch. And then I was gonna say regarding success. How's the locker room feeling, knowing like the past couple of years hadn't really gone your way? Now things finally click and go in the way that it probably should have been, all these years. Obviously, you guys have had the talent for it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the locker room, we kind of feel like we knew we could play like this, perform like this. So basically, we just held everybody accountable. It's nothing personal. We're just business, You do something bad, somebody has to tell you about it. It's kind of like what Coach say. You do something bad, he tells you about it, you move on, what I'm saying, and learn from it. But locker room, we're feeling good, you know what I mean? So I'm just looking forward to the next game at this point. I love playing with those guys. So.
Kind of speaking to the locker room, feeling good and the energy that you bring to the field. Justin, you're one of the known hype men. You're the certified hype man for the Houston Roughnecks at this point. We get to see you mic'd up on the sidelines during the games. Always hearing kind of your chipper attitude, just the comments that you make. You're always just kind of got an upbeat attitude. What's kind of the attitude that you try to bring to the sidelines and to this team to kind of, especially as a veteran leader, just bring that energy every week?
Yeah, I mean, I just love bringing the energy, like you said. I don't like coming out flat, so I feel like. I mean, I come out with a couple of energy. I just feel like it's kind of contagious, Like one guy makes a big play, it's like, okay, now I want to make a big play with you, like. So that's kind of like the energy I give off. Like if I make a big play, all of a sudden another catch a slant, and now we're moving the ball, we're feeling good. So I mean, I love it. You know what I'm saying? So
this past week, we kind of saw you bumping shoulders with CJ Johnson a little bit on the sidelines after a score. Kind of take me through that moment. Was that just a spur of the moment kind of thing? What was up with that?
Yeah, so me and CJ always joke on the sideline. Most of the time we talk, we just joking. So I know CJ, and I never really bump him because I don't know, I don't want to punch him in my face or anything. But I mean, I scored and I was pretty hyped, so I gave him like a little chest bump, like, let's go, something like that. And I know he probably laughed. And, CJ, he's a funny dude. So I mean, yeah, we always joking on the sideline. That's my guy. I keep him calm, you know what I mean? I crack a joke here and there. He'll be like, just shut up. And stuff like that. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask about kind of the production that you've been able to get out of the backfield this season, where you no longer have Mark Thompson, who's obviously been one of the big running backs and just one of the main offensive pieces for you the last couple of seasons. He moves on. Zaquandre White comes in. He's been playing really well. Kirk Merritt, I know he's been injured, but when he's been out there, he's electric with the ball in his hands. Lingard's also produced well when he's gotten the ball. How has that kind of been different this year with really an entirely different group of running backs?
Well, yeah, like you said, Z White been playing phenomenal. Kurt been playing good. Zoe, when he comes in, he does his job. Yeah, I mean, we kind of just going with the punches, That's who they brought in. They been playing good, Don't fix nothing that ain't broke. So, I mean, if it's working, I'm loving it. Exactly. I like Z White. Z White coming that energy too on the side. I like Z White. Yeah. It's my dog.
Is the I'd be curious, with Mark Thompson not there anymore, how did that kind of impact the team heading into training camp? Was there, kind of like oh boy, like we got to find somebody to fill that role, or with it being such a different scene this year in Houston anyway, with all of your new pieces, was it kind of like you just kind of moved on and kept rolling?
I mean, yeah, Mark was a great back, great running back, but I mean, we kind of just got to go with the punch. We kind of only work what we have, so I mean, it's not really. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say that we went to love. It is what it is. But I mean, I like the guys we got. Once I seen our backs, I'm like, okay, we'll be fine. I mean, we're moving the ball fine anyway. So I mean, I'm cool with what we got.
Right on. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, Justin. Thank you for making this work. And I apologize for some of the chaos behind the scenes trying to get you on. It's always some technical difficulties with our show. Does anyone else, before we kind of wrap things up, anyone else have any final comments for Justin, or we good to let him get back to whatever he's got to do?
I do want to, because I just want to touch on here. We talk Muncie small town, but I think there's some good eats. Well, Justin, I got to ask, just 'cause I'm curious, what was your favorite eat there? My buddies used to love going to Savage's. You get like a really good deal for beer, some great cheeseburgers and onion rings. That was my place. You have a place if you were to go back, where would you go?
I don't know if you've been to that spot. It's called Elm Street. Have you been to Elm Street?
Is it the brewery?
Joint? Yeah, the brewery.
Yeah, I've been there. Mm-hmm.
They have some great chicken, like the smoked chicken wings, fire. And their pizza's fire. I mean, there's a couple of good hidden spots in Muncie. The other one I used to love is what is it? It's a Chinese food spot right there by the new. What's it called?
I'm trying to recollect.
There's something like that. Pretty good spot. There's a couple of spots I used to love in Muncie. And of course, Chava's, late night Chava's can't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So get a burrito. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh man, it's taking me back. if only I wasn't 4-hour flight away plus change, man.
Justin, you keep talking about this food, man. Zach's gonna be hopping on a plane at midnight tonight. So
I do love Savage's. Savage's, I gotta tell everybody, it is. If you have any reason to be out for a Cardinals game, like basketball, football, you name it, that is a go-to place in downtown. I have to just shout them out here easily. But no, Elm Street's great too. That's a good beer, good food. So yeah.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. If it's downtown Muncie, I only been like 2 times though, but I think it is pretty good food.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, sure. Again, appreciate your time. Before I let you go, how many more backflips are we going to see out of you this season?
I'm gonna try doing every time I touch that paint. So every time I touch the end zone, you should be seeing a backflip. And if I forget, I'll do that end of the game. So if we get the dub, so. A lot more, basically.
A lot more. Roughnecks fans, stay tuned. We definitely got some more backflips coming your way. Justin, appreciate you joining us as always. Thanks again for making it happen. Best of luck the rest of the way, and good luck this weekend against Birmingham.
I appreciate that. Appreciate y'all having me again.
Yes, sir.
Peace out. Chirp, chirp.
Chirp, chirp.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. That's what I'm saying.
So, before we get into the rest of it, an update on Jace. He's currently stuck in traffic in rainy conditions, so might not get him on the show tonight just because, we had him on driving at some point, but it was nice and sunny.
What has that stopped him in the last?
No scary driving interview this time.
He's in some traffic. It's rainy conditions. I feel like we got to give him a break on this one. Look, we want Jace to come back on every week. We don't want this to be his last show and his last day on Earth. For that matter. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple people out there who might want it to be his last day on Earth, but
I don't want us. I would not want to be the cop that shows up to that car, looks in, and goes, "Huh, it's got a podcast on the screen." Got to hit all these guys up.
National podcaster Jace Sternberger.
And the league never let us talk to anyone again. Speaking his mind. Love it. Well, I would say if we want, we can give him a break, or we can wait and see if he luckily comes on. But
we'll see what happens. We still got time, but might as well just jump into power rankings at this point.
Yes, sir. Let me load those up, ladies and gentlemen, and we will get that right away. Let me get on here. And I don't know why it sold out James here, but let me get that. There we go. That was what I was looking for. So here we go. Look at this. Ooh, my mouse following the power rankings. Look at that. Shiny. But here they are, folks. PFN's power rankings leading into week 7. Michigan jumps up after they're trouncing a DC. DC slides back 1, and then like I said, all the 4 and 2 teams kind of take up the top half, and then we already slightly had a discussion on the Arlington over Houston debate, which I think is one of the main ones here. But how do you make sense of high parity at the top when everyone is it feels like is beating anybody right now? Transit property discussions we keep talking about from this.
Yeah, I for me, like when it comes to like who wins and loses a lot of these games, because they're so close, like I'm not gonna necessarily put all my chips into or put all my eggs in that basket. The differentiation with those top teams, because I think really the top 6 you could make a decent argument for any of them. I'm gonna for the record, my how we voted, this is exactly how I voted, which is not that typical. Like usually I'm not very chalk, but this week it happened to line up that way. And I think the teams at the top, you see, okay, I think they've got the quarterback situation solved, like they have their guy and you feel good about that. They've got good offensive lines, and that's gonna be the the thing, because all these teams are good. And it's like, hey, if we're going to be in close games a lot of the time, obviously, there's some games where like Michigan pulls away from DC and it's just over because DC's game plan suddenly has to get thrown out. They have to just go into chucking it deep every play. But in general, these games are going to be really close down the stretch. And it's, okay, what quarterbacks and what offensive lines do I trust to be able to run the ball and, chew up clock and, get first downs to when they're up, to finish off games, and what teams do I believe, hey, they're down and they got to make a few plays, and they do it. And you saw DC last week do that. And obviously, there's going to be bumps around the road. At this point, there's no team that has had a perfect resume. So there's going to be, I think if you can look at all these teams and look at the, what they put on tape and say, hey, they suck because of this game or that game or whatever. So right now it's like, okay, Michigan, I feel great about. DC, I feel decent about. And then it kind of goes down from there where like, Arlington, Birmingham, Houston, I need to see a little bit more before I'm putting them up in that top tier, which can happen. Absolutely. And I'm not going to just stick to like, this is exactly what it's going to look like the rest of the year. But I think that's how you break that up, because, those are the things that win you football games when they're close. And that's where I see it, shaping up, at least as we go into week 7.
Right. Nick, I say I can't discount. We talk about clutch on here a lot. That does impact. And, as you definitely know from me, I've had my say on DC through the year so far. But I'll be honest with you, as the year's played out, I've been waiting for teams to also step up. Like I thought Arlington was going to 2 weeks ago, and they did not. And sure enough, their ugly head showed this past week in St. Louis some of the flaws they have, which is, again, you keep having these procedural get yourself in your own way type of plays, or issues with the line where you got to compensate and make sure Luis Perez is protected, and that gets in your way. And that's the reason they're 3-3, is you just can't finish when you need to finish. I'm looking at the 4-2 teams above right now, and it's fascinating because I kind of am with you. I think Michigan gets a lot of the credit this week, and I'll even want to hear from Jake on this, just on opinions with this, is that people are now excited. Perkins is locked in. We look at the St. Louis game and go, well, Jesus, we lost a possession and interception from a possession in the first half of that game to a Battlehawk squad. Credit, defense didn't perform what it needed to second half, but I digress. It makes you wonder what happens in that one contest if you just play consistently a single flow with one guy behind center. Only game we can even bring up that was kind of, even with the split QBs, it felt like Michigan was nowhere in it. It felt like at any time was against Birmingham. But even Birmingham doesn't look great. So, it kind of feels like Michigan seems to have it most together right now. DC does, I think, too, but I think they need to figure out how do we make it a less erratic attack. It's a high-powered attack, but it can't be on and off switch every play. And I think there's teams that are adjusting to the pressure that the defenders are throwing at them, which has allowed for some of these better squads in recent weeks, or at least squads that are looking at these trends, to catch on to them. So that's going to come down to a coaching talk. But I mean, Jake, it feels like St. Louis is kind of like the marker that I think people have seen the most on our power rankings and brought up as, well, the Battlehawks beat them. Like, why is St. Louis at 3? We should jump them up. Some people feel like they're too low.
Well, for me, I did actually have St. Louis at number 2, as much as it hurts my soul to have them that high on any power ranking. But no, because they are, like, Arlington has been trending down, and DC's lost 2 of 3. Yeah, they beat Arlington last week, but it wasn't pretty. They had to come down from 2 scores, which, I mean, great. You could say, like, hey, look, they came back, but they lost to San Antonio. They got drubbed by Michigan yesterday. Memphis took them pretty close to the wire. So they have not just made quite the same statement as I would, like them to make to really put them at number 2. So I kind of have St. Louis slotted there. But yeah, to your point with Michigan, with Bryce under center, with them knowing that he's going to be the guy. Look, every other week they expected that Bryce and Danny would be splitting reps, except for yesterday, obviously, because we knew that Nolan said that Bryce was going to be the guy going forward. And week 4, when they knew that Danny was out on concussion protocol. And what happened in both of those games? They absolutely destroyed their opponent. Granted, yes, Memphis. I'm not going to, and I never gave Michigan flowers for beating Memphis by 18 points. I've had, Michigan up until this week as my number 4 team on the power rankings, because I wasn't going to give them their flowers for beating a team that they, should be expected to beat if they're going to be one of the top 4 teams. But when you have a guy and you can game plan specifically for a guy, and the O-line knows that they're blocking just for a guy, they don't have to think of any other scheme, any other, what the other quarterback's going to do. Good things happen. You keep your defense off the field, and then, good things happen at the end of the day. And
yeah,
now that we have Bryce as that QB1.
I do want, we're talking St. Louis. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jake. If it knows a thing.
Because I was going, I'd still be going.
No. Anyway, we'll move on, because I think something when we talk the St. Louis discussion, and because I saw a few people that put 2 up there. If you guys want, I will throw up our picks if you like momentarily. Dave Comer here, I think, great point here. Can the Battlehawks complete 4 passes? Because again, it's funny. Week 2, same week as last week. It feels like they are heavily committing to the Manny Wilkins, RPO split, heavier carries, limit the passing game type of offense again. And I do wonder if the upper portion of this league, like the Birminghams, the Defenders, the Michigans of the world. Now, credit, they did beat Michigan. I'll give it that. So I can't discount that. But can they do that in a playoff setting when those three teams consistently are getting better? Or you're seeing like a Houston, again, Beth still waiting to see if that is going to come to fruition. Give the ref his flowers a little. But say a team like that keeps coming up and has a little bit more of a defined game behind it, and if you have to shut down one section of it, can Max Dugan step up to the plate and do a little bit more of what Manny Wilkins wasn't able to do or what they were limiting these guys on doing?
Yeah, St. Louis is a bit of an anomaly just because of the inconsistencies we've seen offensively. I thought Arlington had a better defensive game plan just in general. They were kind of able to make sure Max wasn't too affected on his legs, at least compared to what he did against Michigan the week prior. The Renegades, look, I kind of have them lower in my power rankings because I just don't see it from them. And the problem is they either are completely flat or they'll play a really good game, but they can't execute down the stretch and they lose. And look, they've won 3 games this year, yes, but those wins games, they came against San Antonio, a team that we thought would be a lot better, but turns out that they're not. They barely got by Houston with Anthony Brown as their quarterback. I firmly believe that the Roughnecks would have won that game, had a different quarterback been in there, whether Nolan Henderson or Jalen McClendon. I think Houston takes that game, even in week 2, and that's before they caught stride. I mean, they've really caught their stride these last few weeks, following that week 2 loss. So the Renegades, I don't know, man. It's just, I think Luis Perez is kind of run its course. And Thorne, I know you brought it up earlier, Kalen Balaj is hurt. And, from the sounds of it, he's going to be out for a little while. I don't know exactly how long yet. We're kind of waiting to see what happens on the injury report and kind of getting results on whatever happened there. But he's either going to miss time entirely, or if he's there, he's going to be banged up. So, there's no guarantee that he'll be as effective as he has been over these last several weeks. And where do you go for production? Davion Smith is not going to be putting up the numbers that Kalen Balaj was or have the same impact. Day-Day Hunter has been tremendous when he's been given snaps. I think he's really been a nice difference maker in that backfield, coming out of the backfield, but he can't pass protect. I mean, he's a little guy, and that's what you need back there for Arlington because Luis doesn't run. So I don't know. Arlington right now, I feel like it's just spiraling downwards, and they need a big win against Michigan this week to have any chance. If they lose to Michigan, I think they're cooked. These top teams though are also convoluted. It's crazy. We have 6 of the 8 teams are at 500 or better, which is really, really impressive and shows how much talent in the league. And a team like Memphis is 2 or 3 plays away against Houston from being 3-3. So
it makes for fantastic storylines. I mean, again, we talked about last year, like all of us here, gentlemen, and it feels great to be like in that sense, being like, okay, sure, if you're a fan, maybe you're a little uneasy, but like if you're a guy like us where we're watching the whole league mostly with the fandom as kind of like almost a sidecar, it's pretty fun to be in this kind of space where you're going, man, all the possibilities here, now that we're getting into the nitty gritty of things, teams are going to be, you're assuming continuing to lace up the shoestrings and be even more cleaned up for some of these that are higher end teams or coaching staffs. So that's what I look at. You're slowly but surely getting more and more of the best of your squad, the more reps you put in.
Yeah, there's a lot of parity. And it's great for the league, but I'll disagree with you. Me personally, I absolutely hate it. We watch the league and all that, enjoy the exciting games, but I much preferred last year in knowing going into week 7, you get that win, Michigan clinches the playoffs, and they did.
Yeah, but you're a Panthers fan, so of course you want to.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Well, Zach was saying that we're covering it, that we're happy to see it. Like he can speak for himself.
I think that's what he's trying to do is be like, look at this Panthers fan over here trying to not defend his ground.
Yeah, I want to circle back quick to something on Arlington, which I was just like, the 11 penalties for 69 yards.
Yeah,
we're in week 6.
They've had a problem with penalties all year too. That's the thing.
It's been all season long, and it's consistent with Bob Stoops' coach teams, right? We look at last year, their 0-6 start. How much of that 0-6 start was not lack of talent, but a lack of execution and a lack of discipline, right? I mean, time and time again, we saw that come back to bite them. And this year, yes, they started out stronger. They got a couple sneaky wins against San Antonio and Houston. We're seeing who are teams that have had even worse execution issues, especially San Antonio. Houston's cleaned it up as of late. But, for Bob Stoops in particular, I've been disappointed with him and the fact that, he calls a timeout with 4 minutes left in the game when St. Louis regains possession, kind of for no reason. And then you end up losing that timeout, and you only have one timeout for St. Louis's next drive, and the Battlehawks end up winning the game because of that. And it's actually funny, too, because I asked him about the decision behind that timeout in the post-game press conference, and he thought I was talking about the timeout that he took, the final one, just the one that he had to blow, because, why not? At that point, the game was over. And then he walked off the podium. So we still have no clarity on exactly what happened there. But it's stuff like that, whether it's coaching mistakes, players not executing, not being disciplined, that's why I like Houston's odds better right now, because I think they're playing more disciplined football, and I think their energy and overall quality of play has just been better.
I mean, we got a hot mic on discussion on Bob being now
we did get a hot
making
mic.
some unique choices. I mean, but this has been a consistent thing he's done. I mean, I know he's got the XFL championship under his belt, but I still have never felt confident in Bob Stoops doing this since it's become XFL 2.0 or 3.0, I guess, or UFL. It's just, you're always going kind of this edge of your seat on oh, he's going to do something that's not really a good coaching tactic here. Just wait for it. Or, oh, they're going to give this call, or last year where it's oh, 2 coordinators per section. That doesn't seem like it's going to, be conflicting or or mixed messages or whatever, stuff like that. This is Bob freaking Stoops. I'm referencing the freaking hot mic. It's Bob Stoops here. What are we talking about?
I know.
It just seems weird to say that.
It is bizarre. And it is bizarre just to see multiple teams in this league in week 6 to still have some of those boneheaded mistakes that continue to cost them. But, it is the UFL, so you got to expect the unexpected, I guess. But you're kind of expecting it, so I don't know if it's unexpected.
Yeah.
Guys,
there's a reason why I never. There's a reason why I never believed in Arlington. It took me so long to actually give them any sort of credit this year on my power rankings, and then when I do, they lose 2 straight. So I know better than to ever give them their flowers.
You know what killed me for Memphis this week was the fact that we had to see EJ Perry for a drive. Part of a drive. I thought that might have actually lost them the game. If you kind of look back at the momentum, even after Wynn had a couple of turnovers, he's marched him down the field. He gets hurt, he has to leave, and EJ Perry just comes out cold and completely misses Jonathan Adams on what would have been a touchdown to kick a field goal. Stuff like that, to me, is really frustrating, because if Wynn doesn't go down, I think they score a touchdown on that drive, and looking at a different ball game. I'm trying to think of other takeaways I have from this week.
Yeah, that's a hard one, But you got to put someone in when you need to put somebody in, and it's a shame because obviously more erratic EJ has been showing up this year than the one we saw that is I think gets a bit of hero status from 2023.
Yeah, that trend was definitely on tape last year.
It was at times for sure. Yeah.
Honestly, it was on tape in 23. It was just more.
It was.
It was just kind of excused because it was this guy was been here for 2 weeks, so you expected some, some issues. Hey, some errant throws, whatever. He doesn't have any chemistry. That's fine. But you expected that, hey, that second half against the Maulers in that playoff game, that EJ Perry to carry over to the next season, and you'd see that EJ Perry, and it didn't happen. And that erratic behavior just got worse. And so, that's been kind of the story on EJ, is he's just not consistent enough. He has the highlight plays. He has, he's very mobile quarterback. He's the prototype of what you want in this league, but it just hasn't really worked out long term. And honestly, that's part of why I was a little, I don't know. I still thought he was, a good quarterback, but with Perkins, I was I want to see a little bit more before I crown him, going into this year, was because I just, crowned EJ Perry the second best quarterback in the league going into 24, and then that didn't pay off. And so, got burnt the opposite way this time. But in general, if he's your backup in situations like that, it's fine. You can do a lot worse than EJ Perry. but your upside's limited. And, I think any quarterback coming off the bench in that situation is just not going to, for the most part, unless you get really lucky, isn't just going to go and dominate.
No, I completely agree. I mean, he came off cold. I just think it's unfortunate for Memphis that it happened at that specific moment because you had to settle for 3 where I think you could have scored a touchdown pretty easily with Wynn. David makes a good point. Wes Hills being out there, that was big. I mean, I thought Hills looked explosive and really athletic. Really was the key catalyst for that offense for a lot of the game. So it's good to see him back with Jim Turner. I think it will help out that team a lot. At this point, Memphis' season is basically over, but they can at least, see what they can do with West and kind of moving forward there. Ducky, I'm sorry, but Jace, I think he's still stuck on the rain. So.
And they get they get David Davis back.
That's gonna be fun.
So they'll be frisky. Like they won't play like
frisky.
I think. Brutal.
That's your new phrase,
Brutal.
man.
I don't know why. I like it. Just something like
hold on to it tight. Put it in your pocket forever.
Yeah. They won't lie down like I think the Brahmas are going to lie down in the next couple weeks. I think they'll have some close games. I don't think they quite have the horses to compete consistently against everyone else, and that's kind of proven throughout the first 6 weeks. But they have some pieces that, like, hey, if everything clicks, I think they can still absolutely beat, at least the majority of these teams. Maybe not Michigan. I know they don't play again, but as far as like, hey, if you get their best swing, they have some talent.
I like it. Gentlemen, unless we got something else, I think it might be time for some points. What do you say?
I agree.
Yeah? Yeah. I like it. Okay. Let's throw out these points here, folks. Let's start with Jake. Jake, 15 points to you, sir. Got to toss that in. And you know what? Bonus points. No mowing the lawn, no grilling. You're here. And chopping it up with me, buddy.
I made it.
You did it. Oh, man. Jake, we love you, man. Good to see you on here.
Hey, man, I got a household to run here. I got to, sometimes that takes precedent.
I love it.
Try not to let it.
No, but for real. 15 goes to you, sir. And good discussion as always with you, my friend. Nick, going to give you and tack on get you 20. Get cat cam today, so bonus points. A little Panther fan right there next to you, even though.
How many points of those are frisky?
25. Now you get a plus 5. Thank you for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
69% of them.
Look at that. He's frisky over here. And then James, I'm gonna give you 20, good sir. Lock it in. A lot of people liked your hairdo, by the way. Just had to point that out. Chat was really into your hair today.
Thanks.
I don't know.
The sex hair was doing it for the crowd.
They know what? They didn't have the eye candy of Ducky to look at, so I guess they just had to pick at the scraps. So.
Someone had to bring the hair game. That's all. I'll drop myself 15 personally on the charts there, and we'll go from there. I don't have the list of points with me, so I can't update things. I know with the 69 that we gave Sternberger last time, it's things are getting dicey. What's up?
There is a pretty big topic that we said we were going to talk about at least briefly before we go. I feel like it has to at least be brought up. Do you remember?
Well, he was just trying to save that for the podcast on Thursday.
Oh, I was trying to sneak out of here.
Keep that for themselves.
You know what? Go ahead and take that one for the podcast. I'm good to end it.
I mean, I got one, but it ain't this show related that I know of.
I was talking about the playoff thing.
Oh my God! Oh, you saved me! Holy crap! You saved me from that. I'm glad you remembered. We can't leave without this because I actually have a good point that I discussed with someone on X about this. Please give us the report because extended version. This is overtime. We are in OT on ATU. Let's go.
So, I mean, if you guys haven't seen the article yet, I mean, most of the details are in there of what happened. But basically, after week 5, the UFL, I mean, its executives and kind of guys at the top, they proposed to the coaches making a change to the playoff format, which instead of it being the top 2 teams from each division, which we've traditionally seen, top 2 from USFL, top 2 from XFL, basically it would be the division winners from each team from each conference making it to the playoffs, and the next 2 teams with the best record. So that could open the door for either 2 XFL or 2 USFL teams to make the playoffs. Following week 5, it would have been 2 XFL teams with DC and St. Louis and Arlington. Michigan had a tie record with St. Louis at 3-2, but St. Louis has the head-to-head win, so they would make it over there. Thankfully, that's not happening. I mean, I think that it's definitely something for the league to consider, but to make that change midway through the season, as teams like Michigan and Houston are battling for playoff spots in their respective divisions, I think it's a little silly. It also kind of begs to ask the question of...
Hey, don't do that to Michigan. They are tied with Birmingham.
I was saying
tied
week
first
5.
in USFL.
I was saying week 5, where, yes, they were tied with Birmingham.
Still tied with Birmingham.
Yes. But
just say so Birmingham,
league-wide,
Michigan, and Houston. Yeah.
League-wide, they would have been, I don't know.
I'm just saying.
Probably.
Put us with Birmingham.
I'm just, Jake, we're getting conferences out of here. I'm just saying, from a league-wide perspective, they would have been the 5th seed, which is, I'm sure, is kind of what the league wants to see, which is my next point is, look, St. Louis being in the playoffs is going to be good for this league, obviously, for, with the fan base and the attention that they get there. So, to me, from everyone that I talked to, it certainly felt like it was a bit of a blatant, like, hey, guys, can you accept this proposal so we can try to give St. Louis a better chance at making the playoffs? But the good news for the league is that St. Louis won and Arlington lost, and even though they're not going with that format, hopefully that means that for the league's sake, maybe the Battlehawks make it. We'll see. But, yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing that came up really quick and got shot down really quick, but I figured it was worth reporting on because that would have been a really interesting development behind the scenes.
Man, I have a lot of thoughts on this because I know the league's trying to be different. And I know this has been brought up in the past. I know Anthony Beck's very adamant on this format that I have heard in previous times. Last season, actually, we had the discussion about this as well. And I think it's perfectly fine to vote for something like this in an off-season capacity. I don't think 6 weeks into a year is the right time to spring onto teams and coaches, hey, let's change it now. When it's very competitive, when we have 6 teams that are vying for 4 spots, not a good look, personally. I think that was a misstep, if you're asking, and I'm glad that the right heads prevailed, it sounds like, in saying, hey, sure, let's talk about this, but let's not do it now. This is good competition. We have something we can, if we're talking market. And honestly, St. Louis ain't looking too shabby. Yes, they still have to contend, and, Arlington is helping them, I think, with that. But, look, this is about, you should still have it where you don't want to mess with integrity of the game if we're, reading between the lines, possibly. And quite frankly, I know that the system proposed is interesting. I actually have a different system personally that would be fun, but I think it would be more controversial, is what if we took the 2001 XFL playoff system, which, for a reminder of this, is you have the top 4 teams. Difference is the top conference team plays the second place in the opposite conference leading in and then starts things off. There's also talk you could do it away with conferences, but do you want to get rid of the rivalries with the conferences? I think there's a big discussion to be had, but this isn't the right time to do it. Not week 6 going into week 7. Wrong place, wrong time. Do it in the off season and bring it to a vote when you have a more stable, I think, conference type of discussion to have, much like any ownership meeting in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Now is not the time to have that conversation. To try to make a change like that midway through the year is crazy. Look, whatever you do before the season, during the off season, that's one thing. To try to make a change during the season, again, it's hard to look at them trying to make this change midway through the season without the lens of it being, we're doing this because we want to give St. Louis a better chance at making the playoffs. That's the issue for me, and that's, talked to a bunch of people around the league about this, and that's how they all felt as well. And it's a big reason why I got shot down, because a lot of people weren't happy about it. So, it's not happening. But yeah, kind of an interesting development there, as the league has been sorting through the CBA and this and that and TV ratings and trying to get attendance fixed, and then you try to change the playoff format, and it's just like, it's kind of unnecessary right now.
And I'll say this real quick before I want to hear Nick's thoughts on this, but like, to me, I think it goes back to a lot of our talk and problems. I think the league isn't reading the room on how to address core issues with, say, attendance revenues or getting people in seats. Because the way that reads off is you can't just lean on one market. Eventually, you have to look and take a long, deep, hard gaze at what you need to do in markets, because I've had other people brought this up, and I had one specific person, and once again, because Birmingham keeps becoming a butt of the joke in this attendance discussion. You know what I want to say? 7 of the 8 markets are attendance discussions. None of them are meeting expectations except for one, because of the fact that St. Louis is carrying. So please, the league has to look at what it's doing wrong. Now, Michigan's been a good spot this year.
I would say give Michigan credit for seeing an increase. It's a tough market to get into when you have, you are an NFL market with 3 other, you have all 4 major sports. You're playing literally right across the street from the Tigers, and we've had plenty of overlap with games, so you got to give them credit there. And then the fact that, Michigan's growing, but, I'm just going to glaze the Michigan market a little bit because kind of have to we're the only one with an increase in, other than maybe St. Well, I don't know.
What I'll take from that?
Or down?
You know what I'll take
St.
from
Louis
that?
is down.
Yeah.
So Michigan's the only one that's up.
Yeah.
What I'll take from that, though, they're actually, and I know Memphis, some people are like, oh, Memphis, they have been pulling tickets, but they got efforts in there. Okay, that's fine. You still have to put people in a market, and I'll leave it at this again. Michigan is performing better, but I know the league wants more. That's why I say 7 of the 8. I'm glad they're doing more. Exactly. But 7 of the 8 markets are underperforming. Sorry, don't point at one because of championships when they're all underperforming because the league isn't doing its damn job. The right people are not doing the right job. That's why they fired people before the season. It's why they're trying to do it again, and they have to figure out what the hell they want to do with marketing and tickets. Figure it out, because it's not just a few markets. It's one. One market's doing exceptionally well this year. So that's where I leave it at that. I've been getting real tired of reading the same thing over and over again. If you could tell, it's really old, guys. There's definitely a bigger conversation than just Birmingham's doing bad, but there are multiple championships. It's other places. It's not just Birmingham, people. Just heads up.
And R.I.P. UFL Jeff.
My UFL Jeff. Great. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead. I left you that. That's fine. It's no big deal.
See, I'm not paid overtime here, so I don't think I can't get my thoughts on this. I gotta negotiate a new contract.
I got a solid $1.25 right here. You can go down to the laundromat, and if you're free, I don't know, get a soda.
We spare no expense here, PFN.
I've got your pay. Don't worry.
That Verizon
we can talk to
Command
CBA
Center
about it too if you want. That's fine.
We didn't get that Verizon Command Center check yet, guys. So.
Yeah, when is Verizon gonna sponsor our podcast? I'm still waiting on that one.
Please, if you're hearing us, Verizon, we need it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, it's not. This isn't my realm, so I kind of let you guys talk about all that marketing stuff. It's just something that I don't really care about, honestly.
You're the roster boy. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's. I'm here for football. I'm here for football takes.
But without the marketing, there is no football. So
that is true. But as far as
that's above his pay grade. That's just above.
Yeah, for sure.
We're getting frisky about it.
That's if I was being paid $2, I would that'd be my issue. But right now, no, I'm just gonna stick to rosters, I think.
Good show, fellas.
Oh my God, gentlemen, really good one, folks, and everybody in chat. Thanks for sticking around with us. Great conversation today. Great questions brought up. Appreciate you all as always. And as always, we will be back next Monday, 6:00 Eastern time, right here, right now. Panel going to be lined up. Going to be a fun lead into the playoffs, and it's only getting started really with the second half of the year. Lots more that could have implication with this week's slate of games coming up. Also, be sure to check out me and the ref for your week that is coming up with the UFL podcast on Thursday afternoons, leading into Friday night's action going into the rest of the week. And gentlemen, you should check out these guys on social because they do some great things as well. awesome content, awesome setup. All of you do a great job on making, I think, the UFL better, the community is a better place. I appreciate all of you. I have to say that. But yeah. Till next time, he's James. That's Nick. Jake below. I'm Zach. We'll catch you later on Around the UFL.